Eagles helped the cause, get the W on Saturday. Gnarly first half. Pull away in the second half. In many ways, a formula win for the Eagles. Good to know Jalen's looking better. That's outstanding. The Jake Elliott thing's a real concern. Look, all of it on the table with you and your reaction to what stood out to you from Saturday at 215-592-9494. The good and the bad, and certainly there was more good than bad. Defense outstanding. Defense is just really grooving right now. We'll get some congrats out of the way early because there's a few things to detail. 5 straight years making the playoffs, which I think everyone's aware of, but just to put it in, perspective, that's really, really rare.
Only the second time in Eagles history, according to the broadcast. That's wild.
That's right. So, and that would be Andy from 2004.
That's wild.
Yeah, so 5 straight years making the playoffs. 2 straight years, obviously, the Eagles finally are the team that ends the weird NFC East drought of no repeat champions. So Eagles do it for the first time in 21 years. And how about this one? I hope people put it together because you got to go back to the Doug years and part Carson and part Nick and part all those guys, Fletcher Cox and all those guys back then. The Eagles have now made the playoffs 8 out of 9 years. And I don't have to tell you, in particular, if you grew up in the 60s and 70s, but even if you grew up after that, making the playoffs 8 out of 9 years is rare territory. So congrats to Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman on down for the 8 out of 9 year accomplishment. So I say all that to set the stage with you today at 215-592-9494. Your reaction to it all. John, Saturday, what stood out to you? What'd you make of the game?
I was I was thrilled that our run game got going once again. We got more out of that than early in the season, and I don't know if you remember just what was it, the first month, September. I was begging the Stars for just a big one. Let Saquon bust a long run where
wasn't his best run of the day. Best run of the season was the roughly 10-yarder for the touchdown. He broke 4 tackles.
He had his 2 best runs of the year, I think. Yeah.
But that one down there was his best run of the year.
I was when I saw runs like that, I thought of you. I thought, well, I hope Joe realizes he's wrong, that Saquon did not take a sideways step this year or a backward step.
Well, he did, but he could still do great things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
He did take a sideways step, and that was a guy who ran for 2,000 yards last year.
Yeah.
It just wasn't in front of him this year. He's so amazing, and it's cool to see that we're finally getting some holes opened for him where he has enough just an extra split second to get into open space, which he was not afforded that luxury for the first half of the season. So that was great to see. The defense, my gosh, the pass defense, it's producing numbers that
tremendous.
You've never, ever seen before. And this is not because of, like in previous years, we had 70 sacks one year. Set an all-time record. It's not because we have this imposing defensive wall that's getting quarterbacks on the ground. It's because the coverage is so sound, and that's so much. And I don't know, just from what I would expect, it just feels like that should be so much harder to do it that way. But somehow our DBs do. And, of course, the weak spot, you see it every once in a while.
Adoree?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not that bad.
They attack Adoree Jackson. I mean, if that's the best you can do, okay, I'll take it. I know you might beat him a couple times, but geez, the numbers, like I said, below 100 yards. It's
a great defense. Also has to get credit.
Amazing.
Reed Blankenship has to get some credit because we talk a lot about Cooper DeJean and Quinyon for obvious reasons, but this is a guy in 2023 I thought really was struggling in coverage. And, we talk a lot about Nakobe's going to be a free agent and Jalen Phillips going to be a free agent. So is Reed Blankenship, who they've gotten great value from on a rookie deal. So they're going to have to figure that out in the offseason. Not going to be able to probably pay everybody. We know the deal. Lost some guys from last year. Don't want to lose too many guys off of this defense, but he's another one to consider. Look, I'll say this about the game. I thought it was a great step in the right direction. Great step. I mean, first off, you get Saquon going, and I thought part of it was the blocking, but I thought a lot of it was Saquon, frankly. The run near the goal line for the touchdown, I did think was his best of the year. One thing that stood out to me through the first 3.5 months, I didn't think he broke nearly as many tackles as he had in last season. And obviously there's from time to time he'll make a guy miss that's right in front of him right when the play begins, and that's not good. Some interior lineman has a breakdown, and Saquon's just got to make a move to get out of harm's way, and sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't. Hard to do. But I just thought in general this year, one thing that stood out is he wasn't breaking as many. Let me put it this way. Think back to the touchdown he had versus Washington to start the NFC Championship game last year. Ran to the left, had a spin move, broke through two different dudes over there. Like that kind of move where he got through two guys in about a 5-yard space. That was the kind of move I thought, frankly, was missing this year. Whether you call it a move or forcefulness, I thought that was largely missing. What he did at the goal line spoke well in the moment, but it spoke well for the playoffs. I mean, maybe there's a little more juice there now. So I was very encouraged, obviously, with Saquon. I'm encouraged with Jalen. Look, the 2-minute drill was a disaster, and I know a lot of people are coming down on the coaches. I thought that was mostly Jalen. He took a minute to go a few yards from 2 minutes to 1 minute on 2 plays. That was horrible, and I think that was on him. But I thought he started the game really strong, had a weird little middle part where he wasn't as good, and then third and the fourth quarter was outstanding. So I thought it was an outstanding game by Jalen on the whole, which is really good to see. Defense, is there. Then look, special teams, it's an issue. It's really not dissimilar to last year when we were having conversations in late December. What do you do with Jake Elliott? They stuck by him last year. My sense is they'll stick by him again this year. But it is getting increasingly concerning because, they've changed the holder. I'm going back to a couple years ago. They've changed the snapper this year from last year, and then they went back to that guy again. And yet it's now, 3 out of 5 years that he's really been not good. Now, I don't put as much into the 57-yard field goal. That's a really far field goal. I do think it's entirely likely. Sirianni did not admit it, but I think it's entirely likely the Eagles went for the 2-point conversion because Sirianni wanted to send a message to Jake Elliott. I mean, after the game, Sirianni's giving you the song and dance about its math? Maybe. Or maybe he was just telling his kicker, hey, kicker, get your freaking act together. So there's a lot to break down from the game. But
I don't know how you can trust him. I mean,
well, you can't.
But
they're not going to change. If they didn't change last year and they won the Super Bowl, they're not going to change.
That
might not be the right decision, but I'm just telling you they're not going to change.
We went into the locker room at halftime yesterday down to a team we should not have been down to. We could have been bailed out to some degree by his leg. And what did he do? He essentially missed 3 field goals, 3 very makeable field goals.
Well, we got to admit, 57's far and 52's far. Now, we're used to 52 being above 50%, but we can't act like it's a 32. I mean, 57
so
still...
do we have to readjust our expectations for our kicker's range?
Probably.
Is that the conversation now?
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Jake Elliott, we have to adjust your range into the high 40s?
I mean, to be considered, sure. I think that's fair. Not to mention just how good do you feel about it when he kicks a 45-yard field goal. Look, obviously it's a concern. 215-592-9494. I also want to open up the conversation about whether the Eagles should play the starters versus Buffalo. This one might be trickier than you think. I lean toward playing them, but I got to tell you, I'm open-minded to being convinced otherwise. I think a lot of people are probably going to say play them, but I'll tell you this, I'm strongly considering not playing them. I mean, think of it this way. The Eagles have to win 2, the Eagles have to win 2, the Bears have to lose 2. Now, the Eagles' 2 games, obviously, we know are at the Bills. That's tough. Josh Allen finished the game, so he'll probably play this upcoming week. And then home versus Washington. Eagles certainly will beat Washington if they need to. The Bears have 2 losable games, 2 winnable games, depending on how they go, at San Fran, home versus Detroit. One of the big concerns is Detroit. There's a really good chance Detroit won't be playing for anything because they might already be eliminated. So, I think the Bears are going to be the 2 seed, Eagles are going to be the 3 seed. So the question is, and by the way, the 1 seed thing, I mean, between Seattle and the Rams, it's incredibly unlikely the Eagles get the 1 seed.
Well, and the Bears, too, because they have the tiebreaker.
Well, right. I mean, this is all predicated on the Bears have to lose 2. So Seattle would have to lose 2. The Rams would have to lose 2. Seattle at Carolina at San Fran. They could lose both. Probably won't. But the Rams aren't going to lose 2. The Rams are at Atlanta and home versus Arizona. So, the bottom line is the Eagles are almost definitely going to be the 3 seed. And so now you enter the conversation of do you even bother playing the starters versus the Bills? So it's either 14 days off if the Eagles play the Bills and get ready and sit the players week 18, or it's 21 days off, call it 22, played from a Saturday, 22 days off if they rest them all now. I'm curious where you stand. We'll get into that. 215-592-9494. What to do? I mean, basically, it comes down to fear of playing at Chicago in the second round or rest for the players. Not to mention, Chicago could lose in the first round. The Eagles could host in the second round anyway. 215-592-9494. It's looking increasingly likely that the Eagles will play the San Francisco 49ers in the first round of the playoffs. Eagles home versus San Fran in a 3-6 matchup.